Alright, and then we do this. And then it dinks like it always does, and we pray for a close call. And then we reset. So why does Power Shock never seem to work against Bowser? Sure, it's a hard button mash, but you can consistently get the bar to around 60%. Recently, Glower has been grinding runs of Paper Mario to try and take back the All Cards world record, and he uploaded a video showing all the different ways he's been screwed over by RNG. It got me thinking about when I ran the category. In the route, in order to beat Hallway Bowser and move on to Final Bowser, you either need to get a Power Shock to work, or if that fails, you need to get a Close Call, which is just a 30% chance when the badge is equipped. You would think that whatever percent you mash the bar to would equal the percent chance that it would work, right? Well, for me, it just never seemed to work out that way, and all my finished runs of that category had to rely on a close call. Now back to Glower. If we assume that he mashes the bar to a realistic amount, such as 60%, which means it has a 40% chance of failing, and we combine that with the 70% chance that close call will fail, that would theoretically give Glower a 28% chance of dying, or a 72% chance of winning in some way. Now, he says he's lost 11 of the 15 runs he's gotten to Hallway Bowser, giving him just a 27% win rate. That's a staggering difference. This got me wondering if something was up, so I decided to run some trials, which is the video you see playing. Internally, the game tracks how full you filled the bar on a scale that essentially goes from 0 to 100. For consistency, I used some GameShark codes to lock the bar at a constant number. I made a small mistake when I set this up though, so the number is a little weird, but in the end, every Power Shock filled the bar to roughly 59%. After 200 attempts, I found that only 84 of them were successful, which is just a 42% success rate. That's pretty far off the 59% the bar was filled to, so it gives. This is where I went to Rain. For those who don't know, Rain has been around the Paper Mario glitch hunting, modding, and speedrunning scenes for a long time, and knows the internals of the game better than most. Using Star Rod, Paper Mario's modding tool, he was able to find the mechanism the game uses to determine whether Power Shock will work or not, and it's way different than I expected. So here's how it works. Visually, you can think of it like the OK meter on the runaway bar, though note that the two functions do work slightly differently internally. When you select Power Shock, the game randomly picks a number between 0 and 100. Then, for the next 102 frames, this number goes back and forth between 0 and 100, incrementing or decrementing by 7 each frame. When the number goes above 100 or below 0, it gets set back to keep it in that range and then changes direction. At the end, if the percentage that you fill the bar is greater than the final value of this counter, the enemy gets stunned. Otherwise, it doesn't. Now this just seems so needlessly complicated. Why bother doing all that when you can just use the number you randomly selected? Well, either by chance or by design, it turns out one small piece of information we hadn't noticed makes a huge difference. When I looked at this in an emulator, I noticed that after picking an initial value, the counter always starts by going up and not down. Also, because there are only 101 different starting values, and the number of times the counter changes is always the same, that means that there are only 101 different values the counter can finish at. Let's look at an example. Say the counter starts at 26. Following the rules I just explained, this number will start going up by 7 to 33, 40, and so on until it gets to 100, then back down to 0, and this repeats 102 times until eventually we end up with the final value of 93. This means that every time the counter starts at 26, the result will be 93. Now let's expand that to every value between 0 and 100. First, we convert each starting value to its final value. Then, we'll sort the results from lowest to highest. Now this is where the magic happens. As you can see, there's a very clear bias toward larger numbers. In practice, that means that on average, you'll need to mash much better to beat the number on the counter, which is not at all what I had originally expected. Now let's take these values and compare them to the 59% mash I tried in my experiment. 43 of the 101 possible outcomes are lower than 59, which means the Power Shock will succeed in only 43 out of 101 cases, or 42.6%. If you remember from earlier, my trial had a 42% success rate, which is nearly exactly the same. So what does this all mean? Well, basically it means you have to mash better, but let's use this to calculate the actual win percentage against Hallway Bowser. With the odds we just determined, there's about a 57% chance of Power Shock failing, multiplied by a 70% chance of Close Call failing, which leads to a death rate of about 40% or a 60% win rate. It's not quite the 72% win rate we thought we had, but with Glower only winning 27% of his fights, I think it's safe to say that he really is just getting absurdly unlucky. Sorry, Glower. If you stuck around to the end, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit more about the internals of PowerShock. This is a different type of video than I usually make, so if you'd like to see more like this, please let me know by liking or leaving a comment. If you're interested in speedrunning Paper Mario yourself, I'm also working on some in-depth tutorials, so be sure to subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss them. And with that, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.